Well, I think that leads to our final segment of this episode, Shit We Couldn't Make Up, involving one of those high spending teams that we have talked about over and over again, the New York Yankees.
Story that has been covered here before.
Yes, I actually looked it up. We talked about this 2 years ago, just under 2 years
That's
ago.
crazy because it doesn't seem when I saw that this was happening, and I'm not going to give it away yet. That um, I I I was like, oh, that was just last year, wasn't it? But wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's after we started this podcast. It was a potential Yankees scandal that was tied to the Houston Astros cheating scandal. And I don't want to go into all the details again. There's a lawsuit that was filed against the Major League Baseball, but specifically the Astros, because some gamblers felt aggrieved that the game wasn't on the up and up, and were trying to recoup their losses because the Astros were cheating. So the results were unreliable. So their gambling losses were not valid. So somehow the Yankees also got tied into that because there's a letter that from Rob Manfred's office that allegedly shows that the Yankees were involved with a cheating scandal of their own around the same time. That suddenly became evidence in this case that they thought was unrelated. But it's probably going to be revealed now after 2 years of this letter being sealed. It will now be opened, I believe, in 2 weeks from now. Much to the Yankees and Major League Baseball's chagrin, they've been fighting this all the time. They do not want that letter open for whatever reasons. They literally said it would be embarrassing to the organization. And it just leads to wild speculation of what could possibly be in that letter. They also said at the same time, all of the information in that letter is public knowledge. So that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. If everything's public knowledge, what could possibly be embarrassing to you?
Yeah.
So that leads to conspiracy theories that there is a much larger cheating scandal involved, that the Yankees could have been involved with a cheating scandal tantamount to what the Astros were vilified for all this time. They might be the same level of cheaters. And somehow Rob Manfred possibly even protected the Yankees organization, knowing about the cheating, and tried to cover it up. And that's where you and I were speculating 2 years ago that the cover up could be worse than the actual crime itself, much like in the famous Watergate scandal. If President Nixon had just come clean and not tried to obscure justice, obfuscate justice, what's the word I'm trying to come up with? Whatever. Skirt justice, if he had just come clean, he would never had to have resigned eventually. And we were gleefully speculating that Rob Manfred might have to resign eventually because of this.
Yes.
If basically I was basing that on if he had perjured himself somehow in this case and it was found out to be a lie. I don't think that's probably the case at all. I have not heard that brought up in the subsequent 2 years after we brought it up. So maybe I was making something up. But
were you searching for obstruction of justice?
Obstruction. Before? Thank you.
Jesus.
There you are. Thanks, right. Podcast partner.
Yeah, hey.
You're there for me.
Yeah.
It's late, but thanks.
The good news is on this whole thing, as I let you know, Oliver Stone has bought the rights to do this film.
This is where I wanted to go with this. This was your funny reply to my text about this.
Yeah,
this week.
Oliver Stone has bought the rights. You know he's obsessed with films that have to do with sealed documents and uncovering conspiracies.
The truth behind the truth. What's really happening in this world.
I'm hoping it's maybe like not. I don't know that we need a motion picture. I'm hoping for like a 4 to 6 parter on maybe Netflix or Amazon Prime.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
What is it called? What would Oliver Stone call this based on his litany of movies? It's pretty simple movie titles typically.
Yeah.
The obvious one would be Natural Born Cheaters. That's just silly. Do you have any? I've got a list, but if you've got, I didn't bring this up before, but if you had anything that popped into your head.
Man. Yeah.
I thought of Born on the 4th of July 2. Okay. Which sounds ridiculous, but it's famously
So wait,
because
do you? So
George Steinbrenner was
would
born on 4th of July.
do we think this film would focus on the entire scandal of baseball, or why, or would it focus
Well,
solely on the unsealing of the document
you
that
know,
indicts the Yankees? So could it
you
be
know, Oliver
called?
Stone couldn't contain himself to one conspiracy theory, so
I
it would
mean,
the tentacles would go everywhere. So
but
it
but
could be, but it could go in
but
many
since it
directions.
stems from the Yankees, it could be called NYY.
Aha, yes,
Yes.
that's great.
Um,
I
uh,
was thinking just something silly, like simple, like Fall of the Yankees might be something he would do. But I think what it's going to be called is it's going to focus on some obscure character, much like JFK did, where he had that Louisiana lawyer that Kevin Costner
yes.
played.
Yes.
It still was called JFK, but I think he's going to focus the whole thing on Cashman. Like
Cashman,
it's just a
the
perfect
movie.
movie name. Perfect name for the Yankees GM for one thing. Couldn't be more perfect, but it's a perfect Oliver Stone conspiracy movie title for something involving the Yankees. So the Cashman.
The Cashman. Inside the scandal of the Yankees that shook the baseball world.
Now you see I just see a map of the AL East with all the different strings tied around it with pins and all sorts of markers and shit.
Word Hole Media.